Hey y'all, my name is Simone J and you are watching my planning and budgeting life. Y'all, I had to go and get a car. Let me tell y'all about it. I gotta tell y'all about it. So a lot of people may be aware that in all of my videos, whenever I talk about debt, I'm always talking about staying away from debt. Just try to avoid it as much as possible. And I still stand on that. I definitely still stand on that, especially if you are one who knows that you're bad with money and you just staying out of debt is so much more better. But I also always knew that, sometimes you have to make decisions, and sometimes those decisions can be kind of unavoidable, but at the same time, you can kind of avoid them. So like getting a car loan for instance, if you get a car loan because you didn't have money saved up to buy a cash car, it's because you're probably not that good with money, because you should have been saving money, but also because if you get it, like in my case, I got a car loan only because I didn't want to deplete my savings. So I could have went and bought a cash car, but I would have depleted all my savings. But also at the same time, how long would it have been before I was having the same issues out of that car that I was having with my other car? So I had to make the decision to go ahead and finance a car. And I'm going to tell y'all about my experience with that, because in the place that I am now with my finances and knowing the knowledge that I know, it was a very different experience. So with my old car that I had that I didn't have any payments on, it was a cash car, and it was very used, but I had no issue driving that car around. I was okay with driving it, no matter how it looked on the outside, no matter that my side mirror broke off and I was driving with no right side mirror, and people were like, when you get your side mirror fixed, listen, when you pay for it, okay? It'll get fixed when you pay for it. And so that wasn't the issue of why I got a new car, but it was like all my lights just came on around the same time. So when I first got the car, my tire light had already been on. I found out it was like one of the sensors on one of the rims, and I just never got the rim changed. And so the sensor had just stayed on. The sensor light, tire light just came on every time I got in the car. Also, there was also the squiggly line light came on, I think about a year after I had the car, and that light just never went off. What other light came on? The service engine soon light had been on since I got the car. That light never went off. What other lights was on? Then recently my horn stopped working. So I couldn't use my horn. And then the airbag light came on. So that light came on. And I think that was it. There may have been one more light that was on, but I think that was it. And so all these lights were coming on. Furthermore, I started to feel my transmission was going out. So when I was riding down the street, my car, it would jerk every now and then. And so I was just like, you know what? I just got my brakes changed early this year. Just got a new starter put in there. It's probably time for me to just go ahead and get a new car, because I don't know when something else is gonna go wrong. I don't know how much it's gonna cost. I don't know how often I'm gonna have to keep, getting something fixed. So I was just like, you know what? Let me just go and get a new car. And I did think to myself that if I'm gonna get a new car, I'm gonna get the car that I've always wanted. And so I went ahead and I told myself, Simone, if you're gonna get a new car and you're gonna finance, you're gonna get the car you want, which is a Nissan Juke. I've wanted this car for the last 3 years. And so when I went, I said I knew that I was gonna get that car. So this is my experience with financing a car now compared to how I used to get myself in debt, which was always just never well thought out. It was never, I just never made the right decisions with money and financing things. But now, knowing that I know, I did make a lot of decisions differently. So also being in the finance world, or being a banker, I've learned over the year that when financing a car, it is better to go to your bank first. And so what I did when I said I wanted to go ahead and get the new car, I knew that I was going to go ahead and go through my job, because I knew the benefits of going through my job. I knew the promotion that they were having and everything. So what I did was I found out what I needed to do to go ahead and start the application. While I was doing that, the first thing I did was, I know that on our website they have finance calculators. And so there's one of the calculators that helps you figure out your numbers for financing a car. So the first thing I did was I went on the website, and I went to the auto loan finance calculator, and I just began to play with the numbers. I started playing around with the numbers. I kind of had an idea of what my credit score, what the interest rate might be according to my credit score. So I just began to I put that in. I actually put in higher. I put in the interest rate higher because I wanted to make sure I was ready. So I put the interest rate in at like 13 point something percent. Just I had a thought that it may be like 10 point something, but I put in at 13 because I wasn't actually sure, and I didn't want to underestimate it. So I had put the interest rate in at like 13 point something percent, 13%, and I began to just play with the numbers of the payment, and then the number of the overall car, and I put in there that I didn't want to go over $400. That put my payment, I put in there I wanted the loan to be like 72 months. And so, that gave me a good range of how much I wanted to pay for the car, how much I needed to pay for the car. And, just gave me an idea of what I was looking for as far as like pricing and things like that. And so according to the numbers, I was supposed to get a car that was at like anywhere from 18 to 21,000. And so that's to keep my payment at least 400 or smaller. And so I put in those numbers, and then after I did that, I went ahead and I went to the website, the car website that they have, with different dealers that they partner with, and I started looking at cars. So I put in the car that I wanted, which was a Nissan Juke, and it brought up cars from different places that I could buy from. There was only one car in my area, and so when I looked at that car, I went ahead and put it in that I was interested in giving it a test drive. So the car was about like 11,990 something. That's how much it was cash, for the cash price. So I went ahead, I expressed interest in that vehicle and started talking to the dealer. Now, when I was talking to the dealer, if you are a car salesman, I respect you, I respect your job. However, there are some who they don't care. They don't care. they know that their commission is based off of what they can get you in, and they take full advantage of that. And so I knew that going to get a new car, I had to be on my A game. I couldn't let them do anything. I had to make sure I knew my stuff, and I had to make sure I made the right decisions no matter what they tried to talk me into. So when I was talking to him, I was texting him, and I was basically telling him that I didn't want a whole bunch of companies pulling my credits. I've been working on getting my credit score up. I don't want my credit pulled by a bunch of different companies. He said, okay, I understand. The company you're wanting to finance through, we actually finance with them, blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay. So it wasn't until the end of my workday that I found out what I need to do to actually, because they were kind of, I was busy also, but they were kind of like saying that it was just a bunch of nonsense. I was like, let's just get the application done. And so I didn't really get the application done until the end of the day. But by the time we actually got the application started, the underwriters had already left for the day. So I didn't get an answer whether it was going to be approved or not until the next day, which I think was like a Thursday or something. It was Wednesday. So Tuesday is when I started the process. And so I was like, okay, you know what? That's fine. I can wait till tomorrow. I'm just gonna go ahead and test drive the vehicle, take a look at it, make sure it's the vehicle I want. And so I left work and got to the place as fast as I could. When I got there, it's like an hour left before they close. Anybody knows that they will stay with you as late as they need to finish out the deal. So they went ahead, they let me test drive the car, had it pulled up and everything, and test drove the car, drove really good, smooth. It was good. I was like, yes, I'm gonna go ahead and get it. It's also very cheap. Well, what I assume is cheap as far as buying a car, because again, I'm not trying to I'm not trying to have like a super big car loan to pay off. So I wanted something, as low as possible, also something high enough to where I didn't have a whole lot of issues out of this car, to where I would be trying to get stuff fixed and pay on it at the same time. I wanted something I wouldn't have to worry about for at least the next year. And so I was like, okay, this car is good. I think I'm gonna go ahead and go with this car. So when I got back to the dealership from test driving it, of course, he had to try to talk me. Into everything. So basically saying like, hey, we finance with them. We can go ahead and get this done right now. You don't have to wait till tomorrow, blah, blah. So I said, okay, that's fine. If we can go ahead and get it done today, let's do it. And so, basically, he got the paperwork started doing everything. And I was just like, okay, back to our regular scheduled programming. So basically he was like, went ahead, got everything started, got the financing done, got me approved. Everything was going good. I was like, okay, that's fine. So then he came, we had to pick out the insurance. I called my insurance company. Right when I had my cash car, I was paying $165 a month for PIP insurance. Okay. Called to get full coverage. They were like, oh, for a $500 deductible, it's like a $300. It goes up like $300. I was like, a month? Just like a month. So my car insurance payment was gonna be like $400 and something. I was like, no. And then she also tried it with the $1,000 deductible. She was saying it was gonna be about $500 and something. I was like, that is insane. I'm not paying that for car insurance every month. That's crazy. And so basically I told her I'm just gonna have to find another car insurance if I'm gonna get this car today. And I was looking at the guy at the dealership, and he was looking at me. And I was looking at him, and he was looking at me, and he was basically, he had basically told me like straight up, I can't let you leave I can't let this car leave without insurance. I was like, well, if they can get this insurance down, I just won't be getting the car today because I'm not paying that for car insurance every month. And so, long story short, with that, we just ended up looking for another car insurance company. Ended up getting down to like $285, and so, you know, full coverage. I was like, I'll take it. I don't think that's bad. And then I actually went and talked to the insurance agent that I was with for so many years, and he was like, Simone, that's actually really dirt cheap for what you're getting for it. So it was good. So got the car insurance, signed all the paperwork. I noticed that while I was signing the paperwork, he was, you know, kind of flying through it, having me just sign everything. And I don't know if he just didn't want me to see certain things, or I don't know if maybe it was because it was late and they were closed. It could have been both. However, he got me to sign the paperwork really fast. So I just made a mental note that, hey, Simone, when you get home, you're going to look over this paperwork, because you already know what the deal is with these dealerships and how they try to basically con you. And so that's what I did. When I got home, I grabbed a highlighter and I started going through my paperwork. And as I'm going through my paperwork, I see that the interest rate is 19 point something percent. And earlier when I had asked what my credit score was when they pulled it, he said it was a 682. How did y'all get 19% with a 682? That's crazy. And then I also noticed that my lender was not the lender that I chose to go with, even though y'all said y'all can get financing through them. That's odd. Very odd. And then so I started highlighting some other things that I didn't really understand. I was like, what is this? This doesn't seem like something that I needed. Going through my paperwork, and now I'm like kind of on edge, because I'm like, this is why he basically wanted me to sign the paperwork so fast, because he didn't want me to look over it. And so I went through, signed everything. I went through everything, highlighted everything I need to ask about, made notes, because I had to go up there the next day anyway to take him the title for my old car. So I just said, before I give him the title, we're just going to go over this stuff and make sure that they're not trying to con me. And so did that, went to sleep. The next day I wake up, the lender from my job is they emailed me, and they said, basically the email said that the loan was approved. And so I was like, okay, so I go and look at the details. They had my payment with the new car with the other lender was like $333. The lender with my job lender, had the payment at $285, and then they had the interest rate at 10.39, and then I think that was it. So payment was a whole lot lower, interest rate was a whole lot lower, everything was just better. It was just a little bit better. So I was like, we gotta change this. I said, well, I just signed the papers less than 24 hours ago. The ink can't be dry yet, so we should be able to, switch this over. So got up that morning, got dressed, went ahead and called the person that was working with me for the loan, started, trying to get all the paperwork together so that so I can go ahead and get everything signed, get everything turned in, so I can get this loan closed. And then I went to the dealership, sat down with him, and the guy that worked with, I can say that he was very nice. He was very nice, and I understand that he had to do what he had to do to get, his stuff done. And so, but he was really nice. I thought that the fact that he didn't push back on me switching a lender, I thought that was really good, because I was prepared to go in there and put up a fight. We gotta switch this lender, because first of all, this is not even the lender I told y'all to ask, and y'all had dimpled my credit anyway. And basically he was like, well, the other lender was taking too long and they didn't give us the answer on whether you were approved or not, so we had to go with this lender. Well, that's not a conversation we had. You didn't even tell me that, So he was like, okay, that's fine. We can go ahead and switch the lender over. And so we ended up getting the lender switched over. And I was glad that he didn't give me too much pushback with that. He started trying to explain to me the difference between, started trying to explain to me that, when, even if you pay the stuff that I pretty much already knew, I was like, that doesn't matter. I still want this lender change, because why would I pay 19% on a loan and I can pay 10.39%. So we ended up getting the lender switched that day. Thank God, because like I said, I was ready to put up a fight. And so we ended up getting a lender switched. But that taught me it taught me a lot. That taught me a lot. It taught me a huge lesson. And it was like stuff that I already knew, but I had to kind of relearn it in that situation. So what I did was I wrote down some notes that I wanted to share to give people who may not know and can also avoid the hardships of financing a vehicle, or just make better decisions with financing a vehicle. So the first tip I have is to get an estimate of how much it may cost. Like I said at the beginning of the story, that I went ahead, before I went to go look at the car, get the car, I went ahead and looked at some financial calculators to make sure that what I wanted to pay for the car was in line with what I wanted to spend every single month. So I went ahead and played with those numbers before I did anything, to make sure that I would stay in my budget. Making a budget was what I did to make sure that I got the best deal for my income. Not going out and getting a car and just letting them tell me, yeah, you can afford this and that. You can afford this and that. And that's another thing. The down payment. I knew that with the lender I wanted to go with, I would not have to pay a down payment. Whereas the lender they put me with, I needed to put down a $500 payment. So when I got my lender switched, I actually got a refund for that $500 down payment, while they also traded in my car and gave me money for that as well. So that was another thing that happened, that, I should have just waited until I got the approval from the other lender. But like I said, I got it fixed. So in that situation, I allowed them to tell me what I could afford, instead of me telling them like, hey, this is what I want, because I know that I won't have to pay a down payment with this company. Also, I also get some other promotions as well. So get an estimate of how much it costs. Don't let them tell you what car you can afford and what you can pay monthly for that car. You tell them, you make it known what you can afford every single month. Number 2, know what you can afford. Know your numbers before you go and finance a car. You know what you can and can't afford. If you know that you can afford $400 for a down payment, and you want a nicer car, or you can afford to put down a bigger down payment, and that's what you want to do because it works better for your life and for your income, do that. But if you know that's what you can't afford, don't do that, because you're just gonna end up getting yourself in trouble down the line. So know your numbers, know what you can afford, know what your budget is, know what margin you have left over, know what your bills are already every single month. Know those numbers, so when you go and make a decision like financing a car, it's easier for you to decide what you can and can't get. Number 3, make sure your calculations still leave margin. So even after calculating, how much I would pay for a car, and then even after financing the car, I still have some margin left over. So right now, in my current situation, I can still save, I can still do the things I need to do, but I also factored into, when I get ready to move, how much margin would it take up. I still have a little bit of margin left over, so I'm not going completely broke trying to finance a car. 4, know the car you want before you go and pick it out. That's another big thing with financing a car. A lot of times, if you don't know what you want, or you just go there and you're like, oh, I'm just looking, they're going to talk you into what they want to talk you into, and they're going to get you to spend as much money as you can. And they're going to get you to get the most expensive car that you can get, so you can have the biggest payment that you can have. So know the car that you want before you go and pick out a car, and know how much the car costs. Don't go to the dealership desperate. Do not go to the dealership desperate. If you go to the dealership desperate, it's like they can smell it on you. They can smell that you are desperate to get a car, and that will also cloud your judgment on what you can and can't afford and what you should and shouldn't get. Don't go to dealership desperate. Make sure when you go, you have all your stuff in order. You have a sound mind of what you're there for and what you need to get and what you can and can't afford. Number 6, don't let them rush you. When they're trying to get something done, some of them may not even go over it. They may go over it a little bit. They may go a brief. They may give you like a scan of everything, but don't let them rush you with signing papers that you have no idea what it says, and they're just giving you an overall view of what it might say. Don't let them rush you. Make them slow down and explain it to you. And that's number 6 as well. Look over your contract and make sure they explain anything you don't understand. Sometimes they'll add stuff on there and it's like, I don't need this. I don't need this. Oh, we're also gonna throw in the cost of free car washes for the rest of the year on your loan. I don't need that. I don't need y'all to wash my car. I'm not gonna be, and they probably won't even tell you. You be going all these other places to get your car washed. Didn't even know that you're paying for car washes for the rest of the year. That's the kind of stuff that happens at dealerships. It's the craziest thing. It's like, I don't need that. Take that off there. So now you're paying for something that, like, what? That's crazy. But that's the kind of stuff that happens. So make them explain what they look over your contract and make sure they explain everything they have on there. Number 8, check with your bank first. Do not allow the car dealerships to pull your credit before you check with them first. And also work on building your credit before financing. So of course, building your credit before financing anything is always going to be a big win, because the higher your credit score is, the better deals you're going to get with these companies. Check with your bank first. A lot of times the bank is going to have a way better interest rate for you. A lot of times the banks are, from my experience and from where I work and what I've learned over the year, I know that the bank that I work for, they only fund up to a certain amount of the value of the car. So if your car is worth a certain amount, the bank that I work for is only going to fund a little bit over that value. So what you're paying at, what you may pay at the dealership is going to be way over what the car is actually worth. Whereas the bank is only going to fund a little bit over that. They're not going to buy a car from a dealership for an amount of money that it's not worth. So that's a really good thing, I believe. That's a really good thing. But also because it kind of saves you also, and then it also kind of helps with you not having to pay a down payment as well. Just find a car within the amount they're willing to pay. Don't allow the dealerships to pull your credit before you speak with your bank first, because they're not just going to choose one bank unless you tell them to. They're going to pull your credit with 10 different banks and see which one is going to give them the best deal that works for the dealership. Don't let them do that. That's going to hurt your credit even more, especially if you didn't take time to actually build it before you decided to go and finance a car in the first place. What else? 9, try to get the payments and interest rates as low as possible. So a lot of times, not for everybody, but a lot of times the dealerships are going to give you the interest rate and the payments that work for them. And so you're gonna work better off. You're gonna be better off. Go. No. I have my son here and he just is very needy right now. So you're gonna be better off just check with your bank. If you have 5 banks, check with all your banks. Make sure that you're getting the best deal possible before you go and let a dealership pull your credit score. Shop around for car insurance. This is my last tip. Shop around for your car insurance. For me, I don't mind the loyalty. I do not mind the loyalty, but these companies, they don't care about our finances. They don't care about what we can and can't afford. And so for me, I'm always going to go with what I can afford. And if I may have been with an insurance company for the last 2 years, but if you're constantly taking my insurance up and there's a company that's going to give me the same thing for lower, I'm going to go with that company. Because at the end of the day, I am not loyal to making a company richer while I'm paying payments on something that's making me more broke every single month. So I'm going to shop around for something that's going to save me money so that I can also keep money in my pocket, not just putting money in a company's pocket. So shop around for your car insurance. Even if you've only had your car insurance for 3 months, if it's more cost efficient for you monthly to go ahead and find a different car insurance company, do that. There's nothing wrong with it. Do what works better for you and your income, especially if you're now needing to do something, make a financial decision as big as financing a car. If you can avoid financing a car, avoid it. Don't do it. Just, if you don't absolutely need a new car, continue to drive the car that you have. But if you need to finance, or if you can avoid it, just avoid it. Use your savings if you can. But if you need to finance, I hope that you will take heed to tips, get advice from other people before you go and do that. Don't do it desperate, because that's how you end up with a more debt than what you can save on, and bigger monthly payments than you can pay. So I hope this video was helpful. Hopefully it's not too long, but I hope it was helpful. I just wanted to come on, do this video, and just let you guys know about my experience and what advice I can give according to my experience. You may talk to some other people, they may have other tips that they can give. I just hope that it'll help you make better decisions when it comes to picking out a car, financing a car, and even just staying out of debt. Okay? Thank you. Bye.